You know what is absolutely jaw-dropping? A duchess lands in a foreign kingdom with cameras blazing, a motorcade trailing behind her, photographers circling like hawks, and the king and queen of that country don't show up. Not a handshake, not a palace tea, not even a polite 5-minute photo opportunity. And when that silence hits the internet, it detonates.
And Harry and Meghan going to another country, pretending like they're royals when they're not. And they're doing it literally like days after Prince Andrew, ex-Prince Andrew, was arrested because they want to just really cause that stress in the royal family.
Harry and Meghan are back at it again, being disaster tourists, because apparently they have nothing better to do than waste government time and resources, in this case, for the country of Jordan and the WHO and UN's time.
All they had to do was shut up and do nothing. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were probably going to get their best news cycle in years, because we know deep down they want to bring down the British royal family.
The World Health Organization, the government of Jordan, and others are making here is enormously appreciated. So thank you for coming. Why is a British ambassador welcoming them on a visit when Meghan Markle has trashed everything, and Harry, about the British government?
And she is now living in denial. She thinks she can somehow pick up the pieces of her shattered life and resume what she used to do, which was, ligging money off people, coming up with rubbish projects, borrowing money, being paid for, and just generally jet setting around the world freeloading. Well, nobody wants to know her anymore.
Why are these two going? How much does it cost for these two to go? And why do they keep allowing this to happen? I don't get it. Now, as you'll remember, they did, similar visits to Nigeria, Colombia. They love these faux royal tours to go out there to make it seem like they're, royals, when we all know they're not.
Why to visit Palestinian refugees, which we are not to take as any sort of reflection on their political ideologies, even though obviously visiting Gaza refugees does have a bit of a potential political ramification, especially when we know that Meghan is diehard liberal. So she is probably anti-Israel, maybe, I don't know.
She always knows where the camera is, doesn't she? Everybody's listening to this lady, Prince Harry, everybody. Meghan's eyes directly to the camera. And, but that smile, there's nothing to smile about. It is incredibly creepy.
Let's just sit with that for a second. The Queen of Jordan, one of the most respected royal figures in the world, was home, in her palace, in her country. And somehow, in all her royal duties, she could not locate a single spare minute for Meghan Markle. That's not a scheduling issue, that's a message. And here's where it gets explosive, because this wasn't just any trip. This wasn't some random humanitarian stop. This was Jordan, Catherine's childhood home, the country she lived in as a little girl, the place Prince William publicly called special to his wife during his official 2018 visit. The same queen who attended William and Catherine's wedding. The same royal household that understands protocol, symbolism, and power better than most governments.
Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry, we'll talk about their trip to Jordan. It wasn't full courtesy to the royals, because apparently the fact that they haven't met any main royal in Jordan, like Queen Rania of Jordan, or even the heir to the throne or whatever, it's a failure.
Silence from a royal palace is never nothing. It is everything. And by the time this story exploded across social media, that silence was louder than any speech Meghan could have delivered at a podium. Now let's set the scene properly.
Charles and Camilla were out at St. James's Palace yesterday, delivering awards. And of course, Charles, not looking well at all. Now, I'm going to get into just a moment why Harry and Meghan claim, they're not taking sides in the whole Israel-Palestine thing. Bullshit.
Harry and Meghan arrive in Amman, 2-day visit, organized with the World Health Organization, refugee camps, Gaza children, hospital visit, roundtable discussions, cameras at every angle, carefully choreographed, carefully photographed. The language from their team? Not a tour. Oh no, just a visit, because a tour implies official royal business, and they gave that up. Remember? Freedom, independence, no more royal duties. Yet there they were, police escorts, conference tables, motorcades, official seating arrangements. And here's the detail the mainstream press has tiptoed around, Jordan is deeply personal to William and Catherine. Catherine grew up there. Her father worked in Amman in the 1980s. William has spoken emotionally about what the country means to his wife. Queen Rania attended their wedding. This isn't coincidence geography. This is chessboard geography. So when Meghan lands in Jordan just days after William's historic Middle East visit, that is not random. That is timing. That is optics. That is narrative warfare dressed up as humanitarian outreach. And then comes the part that sent royal watchers into a frenzy. King Abdullah, Queen Rania did not meet them. No palace audience, no handshake in front of gilded doors, no official photograph, no royal endorsement, nothing. And don't buy the scheduling conflict excuse. Royal households coordinate months in advance. If a meeting was desired, a meeting would have happened. Protocol exists for this very reason. Communications between royal offices are constant. Silence at that level is deliberate. Here's what makes this burn hotter. Meghan needed that photograph. She needed to stand next to reigning royalty in a country tied to Catherine's childhood. That image would have whispered what words cannot say: we still belong. We are still in the game. But the door never opened. Instead, the cameras followed her through a specialty hospital in Amman. A 14-year-old refugee. Burn injuries. A bedside moment. A hand held gently just so. Lenses clicking. Angles calculated. Then a youth center. A soccer ball. A penalty kick, laughter, smiles, children cheering, and within hours, side-by-side photos flood social media. Catherine, years earlier kicking a football on royal tour. Similar setting, similar moment, but the internet doesn't miss patterns. The hospital imagery hit even harder. Meghan photographed near prosthetic limbs, compassionate expression, soft lighting. Meanwhile, her own father had just undergone a leg amputation and was recovering thousands of miles away. No cameras, no bedside moment. That contrast lit up comment sections like wildfire. One comment that gained massive traction said she can fly to Jordan, but not to the Philippines. Another asked why prosthetics for strangers make headlines, but family suffering stays silent. The engagement wasn't subtle. It was volcanic. And then the British ambassador to Jordan enters the frame. A greeting, a thank you speech, public appreciation. Suddenly, people start asking, if this visit has nothing to do with the crown, why is the ambassador rolling out the red carpet? Why host them at his residence? Why offer official proximity that blurs lines the palace claims are clear? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. As long as Duke and Duchess of Sussex remains attached to their names, doors open. Conference tables have space. Ambassadors greet. Titles carry weight that exists regardless of whether they represent the monarchy or not. And that is where this story turns from gossip to strategy. King Charles is ill. The monarchy is navigating one of its most fragile periods in decades. Andrew's scandal still stain headlines. The institution is fighting to project stability. And in the middle of that turbulence, Harry and Meghan appear in Jordan with cameras, coordinated briefings, and imagery that echoes royal tradition without the responsibility. Charles has one lever he can pull. Titles. Strip them and the diplomatic ambiguity ends. Keep them and every foreign visit will carry confusion. Every handshake will raise eyebrows. Every ambassadorial reception will ignite speculation. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Charles may not be ready to close that door, because removing titles is not a political act. It's a paternal one. It's final. It's an admission that the bridge home has burned completely. And while Meghan smiled for cameras in Jordan, social media kept replaying one question over and over: why didn't Queen Rania meet her? Because if Queen Rania had wanted that meeting, it would have happened. That absence was not an accident. It was a masterclass in royal messaging without uttering a single word. The monarchy speaks through presence and through absence. So now the internet is split. Was this a humanitarian mission overshadowed by palace politics? Or was it a calculated move to step into Catherine's symbolic territory and claim relevance? The optics were undeniable. The timing was sharp. The silence from the Jordanian palace was deafening. And the reaction? Viral. Thousands of comments. Heated debates. Royal watchers dissecting every frame, every angle, every missing handshake. Because when royalty refuses royalty, people notice. The only question left hanging in the air like static is this: if Queen Rania chose distance, what does that say about where global royal alliances truly stand? Now here is where the temperature rises from simmer to boiling. unsettling, because while the world was obsessing over the missing palace meeting, something else was happening in plain sight, something far more uncomfortable than a snub. Harry, look closely at those Jordan photos. Look past the smiles that snap into place the second a camera swings their way. Look at the moments in between, the pauses, the micro expressions, the half second when he thinks nobody is watching. He doesn't look triumphant. He doesn't look like a man reclaiming power. He looks exhausted, drained, like someone trying very hard to sell a story that even he no longer fully believes. And that matters, because this entire Jordan visit wasn't just about humanitarian optics. It was about narrative control. It was about rewriting the storyline after William's successful Middle East diplomacy tour. It was about creating visual symmetry. If William can stand at podiums in Saudi Arabia, we can stand at conference tables in Amman. But there's a difference between official statecraft and curated symbolism. William arrives as heir to the throne. Governments know exactly where he stands. Protocol is crystal clear. Representation is formal. Harry arrives with titles but without institutional backing. And that gray area? It's chaos disguised as relevance. That's why the British ambassador's involvement sparked outrage online. Because optics are everything in diplomacy. Seating arrangements matter. Who stands next to whom matters. Who hosts dinner matters. If Harry and Meghan are truly independent, why blur the line? Why welcome them into official residences? Why publicly thank them in ways that sound dangerously close to endorsement? It creates confusion. And confusion in monarchy is not harmless, it is destabilizing. And here's where it gets even more volatile. Jordan is not just symbolically connected to Catherine, it's politically sensitive terrain. Refugee crises, Gaza tensions, regional volatility. This is not neutral ground for a PR exercise. Every appearance carries political undertones, whether intended or not. When you walk into that landscape with cameras and branding and coordinated magazine briefings, you are not just holding hands, you are stepping into geopolitical crossfire. And Queen Rania understands that. She understands that royal symbolism is not a toy, that every handshake signals alignment, that every photograph is archived into history. So her refusal to meet Meghan wasn't petty, it was protective. Protective of alliances, protective of clarity, protective of the British royal relationship that predates this controversy by decades. Meanwhile, the internet dissected every detail like forensic investigators. The soccer kit, the hospital bedside pose, the identical framing to Catherine's past tours. Even wardrobe analysis exploded across social platforms. White blazer comparisons, neutral tones, Diana energy debates. The phrase cosplay diplomacy started trending in some corners. And through it all, Meghan appeared radiant, camera aware, controlled. But control has cracks, because here's the psychological undertow of this entire episode. When you leave an institution claiming it suffocated you, then spend years recreating its aesthetics without its authority, people notice the contradiction. Freedom was supposed to mean separation, independence, reinvention. Instead, Jordan looked like reenactment of royal tours, reenactment of Diana hospital moments, reenactment of Catherine's sports diplomacy. And the more it resembled what they walked away from, the more the public asked the uncomfortable question, if the system was so unbearable, why replicate it? Now let's talk about the monarchy's position. King Charles is navigating illness, internal scandal fallout, and a public increasingly anxious about stability. The last thing he needs is parallel royal performances operating in gray diplomatic zones. Because every time Harry and Meghan stand beside ambassadors or international officials, the world sees the word Duke and assumes representation. And that perception erodes clarity. Clarity is the monarchy's oxygen. Without it, narratives spiral. William, by contrast, plays the long game. He rarely reacts publicly. He rarely engages in spectacle. But those who watch closely know this. When he becomes king, ambiguity will not survive. Titles that cause confusion will be addressed. And that looming future adds another layer to Jordan's viral moment. Because Queen Rania's decision may have signaled something subtle but powerful. Alignment with the future monarch rather than the renegade branch. Royal alliances are quiet but strategic. Friendships between royal houses are built over decades, not headlines. Well, so when Meghan left Jordan without that palace photograph, the absence wasn't just personal. It was geopolitical symbolism. And the internet understood. Comment sections flooded with debates. Was this a humiliation? A strategic boundary? A diplomatic masterstroke? Some argued it was overblown. That humanitarian work should not be overshadowed by palace politics. But in monarchy, politics and optics are inseparable. You cannot detach the crown from the context. And as the clips circulated globally, the viral momentum didn't slow, it intensified. Because this wasn't about one one visit. It was about identity. Are Harry and Meghan global philanthropists operating independently, or are they former royals leveraging lingering titles to access stages otherwise unavailable? That tension is the real story. The Jordan snub simply exposed it. Now imagine the private conversations happening behind palace walls, advisors reviewing footage, communications teams assessing public reaction, legal counsel weighing title implications, silence publicly, strategy privately. Meanwhile, Meghan continues forward-facing engagement, projecting confidence, resilience, even defiance. But viral moments linger. They stick. And Queen Rania's quiet refusal became louder than any speech delivered at a refugee camp, because royalty doesn't scream. It signals. And this signal was unmistakable. No meeting, no endorsement, no shared frame. So what happens next? Does Charles finally act? Does he maintain the fragile balance to avoid deeper family rupture? Does William quietly prepare for a more decisive era? One thing is certain, this Jordan episode shifted perception. It exposed the fragility of in-between status, neither fully royal nor fully detached, neither official nor entirely private. And that middle ground is shrinking. The world is watching more closely than ever. Every trip analyzed, every handshake scrutinized, every absence amplified. Because when a reigning queen refuses a meeting with a duchess carrying British titles, the message travels faster than any press release. Jordan wasn't just a visit, it was a mirror, and what it reflected has gone viral. The question now isn't whether the snub mattered, it's whether the monarchy can afford more moments like it before someone finally redraws the lines permanently. And if history has taught us anything about royal survival, it's this: silence today often precedes action tomorrow.